I got one.
Absolutely.
I was in the doctor's office here a few weeks ago, and she said, "You flushing yet?" I said, "No." She said,
Yeah.
"Let's go."
Yep.
For action.
Yep. Because they say even if you get it, it's a little less than.
We've talked about it.
I have a question.
Sign me up next time.
Go, you're gonna learn about it.
For cars and blue lights on
CBS. Yeah.
See, yes, I know the drugstore.
How's it going, Tom?
How you doing, sister?
Doing good. Where's
You
your
working
glasses?
at home? What?
It's
You do a good job on that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Thank you.
because we want to keep you there.
Yeah? Maybe some of you, not all.
No, I like you there.
driving here in your car. Typically it had blue lights on the roof
So I think
going on.
maybe
Somebody told me to give this to you.
I have to refresh myself and maybe see.
This is from
They can have.
at the front desk. That's from Ruth at our front desk. She wanted you to have that.
So it was causing,
And the lights were on.
yeah, and people were like trying to figure out if they're supposed to turn or not.
It could be, well,
Okay.
it's not if it's phone.
Hey, Joe, you better
Could have the lights, but you can't go through the lights.
That makes sense.
Like we could go through, but say they can't speed, they can't.
Okay.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Pastor Justin, could you please give the invocation this evening?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, and everybody with us tonight. Would you please pray with me? Lord God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, it is in you that we live and move and have our existence, the very breath of life, as well as the unique gifts and abilities that characterize each one of us. You have made us, and so we are yours, not our own, in life and in death, in body and soul. So, Lord, you have provided and set in place whatever powers and governments exist. You've placed a calling on each one of us sitting here tonight and gifted us with the ability that we have to carry out those callings. And so you encourage us to turn to you for wisdom and strength. And you are kind to hear and answer our prayers generously. And so I pray for this council tonight for its work, but also outside of these doors for our city workers across each department, especially with the cold weathers and the difficulty that brings, and for first responders throughout our city and our county. And Lord, we ask that you'd move each one to call upon your name for help and safety and wisdom, for strength, even as we ask for it here tonight. So we pray, Lord, that you would help us to live with compassion and patience for others, even in these council chambers, as we might have differences of opinion, even strong differences. But we pray that you'd help us to have respect and regard for each other. So we seek your grace and your forgiveness that you alone can grant, and that would pour out of us towards one another. So we pray that you would help us tonight. We ask in the name of your Son. Amen.
Thank you. So now we'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Clem,
Here.
Monroe,
Here.
Simmons,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Stacy will be marked absent for the moment. Shadle is absent. Sanders?
Here.
And Sellers.
Yeah.
We have a
And it-
quorum. Sorry.
I'll entertain a motion to allow Alderman Stacy to attend remotely. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Monroe, seconded by Alderman Simmons. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Simmons,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Shadle is absent. Sanders?
Here.
Aye. Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Even though everybody voted against me coming in, I'll vote aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0.
So then at 6:03, Alderman Stacy is attending remotely. So if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Simmons. Item number 1 is approval of the agenda. However, we will not be having executive session tonight. Is there a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Monroe, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Simmons,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
and Monroe.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0.
Item number 2 is the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on February 3rd, 2025. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Simmons,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
and Monroe.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0.
Item number 3 is public comments. We have one signed up for item number 5. Steve Carroll.
I'm Steve Carroll. This is about streetlights. So apparently we're still talking about it, and I would like us to stop talking and act on it. At the last council meeting, I talked about the poor lighting and the multiple reports of shots fired over the years on Oak, where I've lived for the last 47 years. Last month, there was gunfire 15 feet from the north side of my house, and this was about 9:30 in the evening. Prior to that, there's been shots fired in the 1200 and 1400 block of Oak. Sandwiched in between the 1400 and 1200 block of Oak is the corner of Empire and Oak, which is very busy during school hours and after school events. There are school buses going through that intersection and stopping on multiple locations on Oak. There are children walking to and from school during school hours and during school events. That area is very dangerous, but I have every confidence in the Freeport Police Department to do their part to keep that area safe. I wish I could say the same thing about the Freeport School District. They've been made aware of the situation, but I frankly doubt their ability to do much of anything. At the last council meeting, I listened to Joy Sellers, who lives up the street from me, tell us how safe it is where she lives and how adequate the lighting is. I have no idea why she would say that when over the years there's been multiple reports of shots fired and 2 homicides near where she lives. The last one was 13 months ago, just 3 houses from her residence. Disingenuous is the kind, euphemistic word I will use here. Apparently, I'm the only one on Oak drawing gunfire. It's obvious that Joy Sellers has turned her back on our neighborhoods, and maybe our neighborhoods should turn their collective backs on her.
And that concludes public comment. We will move on to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be routine in nature and acted as one motion, unless there's a member of the council that would like to have something removed for further discussion. Seeing none, the consent agenda consists of approving to receive and place on file the boards and commission minutes from the Foreign Fire Board of Trustees dated December 12th, 2024, Liquor Commission, January 9th, 2025, building permit reports of January, as well as the fire department reports, the schedule of regular meetings for the city of Freeport for 2025, the CDBG Housing Rehabilitation Grant Report dated December 12th, 2024, and February 14th, 2025. Approval of the finance bills in the total of $1,318,015.77. The approval of payroll for pay period ending February 8th in the total of $669,159.49. And also the cash and investment report and the finance department report for December 2024. And the adoption of resolution 2025-21. which is corrected renewal of agreement invoice with locality media first due for the fire department record management software and modules. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
A motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Clem. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy. Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
and Monroe.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Item number 5 is discussion regarding upgrading streetlights. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to kind of update council on where we stand with this, and specifically in relation to observations and requests by Alderman Stacy. The discussion around streetlight improvements has been going on for some time. 2021, the streetlight improvement project provided brighter lights with lower operational costs through a grant from ComEd that was for the downtown lighting. Grant eligibility and recent success includes, essentially, we've been looking for a similar grant and applying for anything available through ComEd for additional lighting in the city. So city staff's been working since 2022 to qualify for another grant. Recently, the city was awarded a new ComEd grant to fund community lighting projects. That's the Select Communities Grant. In addition to that, some of the large trees in the parkways tend to shade out light from street lights, inhibiting their effectiveness. So in the previous years, but especially last year, forestry was trimming trees along major street and corridors where we were doing street renovations. So that includes Adams, Oak, Iroquois, and Ridge, just as an example. But that improved the street light visibility to some extent. Moving forward, we're looking to deploy our new plan, which is deploy brighter lights in law enforcement advised areas that require additional illumination. So these were areas that were identified by law enforcement as trouble areas that would certainly benefit by increasing the lumen output. Those include the 700 block of South Kenwood, the 700 block of South Float, 300 block of East Pleasant, 500 block of South Carroll, 400 block of South State, Broadway at Locust and Walnut, 500 block of South Chicago, the All-in-One Convenience Store on Locust, South Chicago Avenue and Frank, 1200 block of South High, and 1130 South Galena. In addition, as Mr. Carroll just noted, Oak Street as well. We're working toward getting that taken care of. So recently we had a public works meeting to review and discuss the street illumination improvements and address immediate needs while continuing to work with ComEd on the newly awarded Select Communities Grant Plan. So our first steps are to replace lower lumen lights with brighter lights currently available at the Public Works inventory. These were lights that were recycled during the Chicago Avenue Streetscape project, and we have some on hand that we can deploy right away. So we'll be moving forward on that. Also, replace street lights on Police Schemberger's concern areas, and that would be I think we've got about 22 in inventory and we need about 84, so we're going to be looking for, and those fixtures are fairly expensive, so the total cost is going to be including Oak is going to include something like about $40,000 total for the fixtures and installation costs. So we've got ownership and collaboration. Streetlights are owned by ComEd, requiring direct coordination, and the Public Works Director, Stekel, has initiated discussions with George Gallrap, and we're moving forward with a meeting later this week to nail down plans there. ComEd will be scheduling, as I mentioned, will be scheduling a meeting shortly. Funding and grants, so the higher wattage fixtures do not qualify for the standard grants that we received already, so there will be a cost impact to the city. If funding is delayed, we're going to do what we can with the lights that we currently have. However, we're looking at the new fixtures, not necessarily, we did not include in last year's budget, so we are going to need to make a decision on what we're going to do in terms of funding. However, I'll bring that proposal to you when we get closer to that point. Anyway, in addition, so we can add those brighter fixtures to some areas. However, it may also draw attention from other areas of the community that feel that they need brighter lights as well. So that's a consideration we're working with right now. And then, of course, what that financial impact is, whether that is just the cost of the fixtures and the additional electricity costs, where that'll come from, and when, if that will be moved on through the ComEd bill. So our current estimated cost for what we've just discussed, which is the areas that are identified by Police Chief Schemberger and also Oak, is above $45,000. These are essentially, the electricity is also going to go up to some degree. And right now we have about $10,000 allocated in the street light repair budget, so we're going to need to figure out where those funds are coming from. So we may require the use of emergency funds to make that happen. Ongoing electrical expenses and things will have to be budgeted for the future, and we're not completely sure what those costs would be, but it'll depend on the number of lights we deploy. So that's kind of my update on where we stand with the street light update.
I have a question.
Alderman Sellers?
No, she can go.
Okay, Alderman Stacy?
Yes. Is this a grant or is this discount?
Alderman Stacy, could you repeat that?
Yes. Is this a grant or is this discount?
So right now we're working with ComEd on the grant. We haven't fleshed that information out completely. What I'm suggesting tonight is that we've got about 22 lights in inventory to go ahead and deploy those as soon as possible, and then work through the grant process to get the remaining of those, I guess that would be about 60, replaced.
Okay, will we be using the 20,000 that's in a light funding escrow and the 23 that was saved from the other job that Darren Stiegel saved 2,300?
I'm not positive of what you're saying there.
Could you repeat that, Alderman Stacy?
The funding, will we be using the 20,000 in the light funding that we already have?
We have 10,000 budgeted in this year's budget for light repairs.
And Alderman Stacy, that's for light repairs, not light replacement. We could, I mean, that's what it's in the budget for, so it's a matter of where the council wants to take it from.
Okay, but the 20 went down to 10. Is that what I'm understanding?
The budget was approved in December with 10,000 in this specific line item. So we'll be having to look at other line items or looking at current fund reserve to pay for this.
Okay.
Alderman Sellers, did you have?
Yes, I know that you had said a little bit about other neighborhoods would probably want lighting and stuff. Are we going to try to make that like a program like we did with the streets and broadened it out, and Darren came up with a plan on how we can get lights for everybody all over? Or how are we going to, have we looked into that yet or no?
Right now we're addressing the emergent
Okay.
request. I'm not sure where we're going, but I do know there's lots of parts of town that don't have really any lights to speak of, more of rural cross sections. So certain wards don't even have poles every 1,500 feet or so. They have like one in a corner, and there's not very much lighting in certain neighborhoods. So that could get very expensive because of the fact that the poles don't exist. But just to answer your question, we're doing what we need to do right now to deal with the issue at hand.
Darren, did you want to add to that?
Hey, wait a minute.
Clarify the money portion of it. So the
$23,000 that we saved at the last meeting in that bid, that's water and sewer CIP money, so by ordinance, it can't be moved to the lighting program. The $10,000 that's budgeted for light repairs, if we spend it on this program, we won't be able to replace or repair any of the light ballasts that we currently do. So that would, I guess my suggestion is if we move forward with this, it's gonna have to come from emergency funds, just like if we had another emergency that wasn't budgeted. That's where this funding will end up having to come from, because I believe by ordinance, it cannot be taken out of CIP.
Alderman Sanders?
Yeah, following up with the scheduling for these programs, have we estimated how long will it take to start the process of this programming? Because we're not even talking scheduling dates, and we need to get started whatever the initiatives are right now when we're starting talking about this lighting program and things like that. Are we scheduling and estimating time and date when we start these process, when we start these procedures of getting these lighting started? Whatever we have that we can get in place and start the program, get it started. I don't want to hear that we're still working on it. This guy came up here twice already making a complaint about Oak Street. And so I have not heard any feedback in regards to when we're going to get started. We have looked into it, and we have done a survey to actively to expedite anything of that kind of concern, because I want to see us doing something, talking about it, because that is a priority. And where is it on the priority list? And I wanted to know, since we're getting this thing together, are we prioritizing anything? That's the whole thing, to get this thing started. So I'm just looking for the active part of it, of the progress that we are stepping into, and we have an estimated time and date. We're not going to prolong this for a year or 2 years. We want to give the citizens an absolute kind of estimated time that we can get started and start this process.
Alderman Clem?
I think we ought to stop and back up a second here. We don't even know what we're going to do yet, or when we're going to do it, and if the lights, we got to work to do it. And when it was mentioned about other places in town that need electricity, or need places, yes, there are some. Do we need to go where we're specifically having problems? The answer to that is 100% correct. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But you got a process that you got to go through to figure out what you're going to put lights where they will fit. Do the ones that we have, wait a minute. We have
No, I don't need you to do that. Yeah, you're
Alderman Sanders, he has the
Don't
floor.
say a damn thing. It's time you sit back and listen.
No, I'm not going to sit
Alderman
back
Sanders,
and
you do not have the floor.
and he does not have the
You
right
do
to-
not have the floor.
Yeah,
It is
well,
Alderman Clem.
I'm not going to let him attack me and insult me.
You-
neither.
Well, you do it to everybody else. So
No, I don't insult you,
Don't say-
but I will start
That's
doing
enough,
so.
Alderman.
Nothing but waste time for this constant-
You're a very disrespectful person and trying to be subtle with it, as if though you're so intelligent about what you're talking about, and you didn't even listen to what was being said,
did listen to what you
and so
said. You
obviously
said nothing,
your
like
observation
usual.
is incorrect.
Alderman Sanders,
Yeah.
you do not have the floor.
I know.
Alderman Clem, do you have something more you'd like to say?
No, I just like to say, first you got to have a plan before you do something. Last time you jumped it and you put a light in someplace, the alderman that said you put the light in it said it wasn't bright enough after it was done. So tell me what you're going to do to solve the problem before you do it. Everybody's for doing it, but you got to figure out what you need to do.
Alderman Monroe.
He never answered the timeline question.
Manager Boyer.
I would imagine we'd get started on it probably by the 1st of April, thereabout. Yeah.
Darren?
So the one thing that everyone has to keep in mind at the council level is the city of Freeport doesn't own the poles or the lights on these streets. Commonwealth Edison does. So we can't do anything without their direct permission. So we can talk about this and we can move it forward, and we need their assistance to actually install them or give us at least permission to do them because they're live lights. So we can't send our crews out to just change these lights out. So it's a process, and it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen next week. It's going to take some time to coordinate this. We were able to get the one light changed at Iroquois at that intersection as a favor from Mr. Gullrap. We pushed that forward. And I'm not saying that we can't get this done because we have 22 of the 25 lights in place for Oak Street. We actually have them. We're not sure that they all work, but we have them in the warehouse. But again, we will not and cannot move forward without their direct permission because they own the poles and the lights. We only pay for the electricity.
Alderman Monroe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think time is something that's passed by. 4 years worth. Since I've been on the council, we've been talking about this. We've been asking for more lights. We've been asking for better, it goes back to the previous chief of police. We had these conversations with Matt Summers. So time is of the essence now. We've been dragging our feet from the previous public works director, who's now the city manager, to the new public works director. And we're asking for movement. We're asking for something to happen. And while I agree with you, the lights belong and the poles belong and the power belongs to Commonwealth Edison, there are other options available to improve the lighting in some of these areas, especially where there's no poles existing, where we could put in poles that have 24-hour guaranteed uptime, 365 days with solar power. They're out there. Are they expensive? I have no clue. It's not my job to look it up. But I did get 2 calls after we talked about this in the last week from companies that want to pitch these services. So I think as a council, what we're all asking for is a plan that's put to paper, much like you did with the roads, which was exactly what we needed and what we wanted. And it allowed us to then start attacking the problem in a systematic way. We knew the cost. We knew the timelines. We could come up with a plan. And I think that's where we're kind of sitting right now, is we need that plan to kind of move forward so that we can say, okay, well, maybe we need to kill this in the budget because this is a higher priority. This is that need versus want conversation that we'd never want to have here. We just want to buy, $1.5 million pieces of equipment and not have real conversations about what the community needs. And there is, without a question, he comes here all the time talking about gunshots in his neighborhood. We've got the same streets. It's the same areas. We've got to give the police department a fighting chance. We've got to give the community a chance. And we've got to come together and come up with a solution. And it may not be what we want, but it's what we need. And I think we've got to bring that together. I think it's simple to just work together, come up with a plan, and you'll get 7 or 8 yeses to come up that will back you on this. But we can't do that. That's not our task. We don't know how much each one of these costs. We don't know how much time. We don't know how long it takes ComEd. We need your help. And that's why I think we keep asking for and why this keeps coming up.
Darren.
Yeah, so I agree with most of what you said, with the one exception. We have had no vote or unanimous or direction from council to put that plan together because it's not budgeted. So if we make that plan and council addresses us to do that, like they did with the street plan, we will absolutely do that. I am afraid, to be honest with you, I agree with most of what you said. The city of Freeport right now, while I agree the safety areas are a priority, we cannot afford to replace every light in this town. And I think the taxpayers would be pretty upset with what that ultimate cost would be. I did a little bit of research, and so we'll give some facts here. the lights were approved by City Manager Crow to be replaced, and I believe it was 2018, and most of that project was done somewhere between the end of 2018 and 2019. Those lights have only been installed for 5 years. ComEd doesn't do any light replacement within 5 years. That's their minimum. You can't get any light changes out for 5 years at a minimum, because I think that's probably the lifespan of their fixture or the payoff of their fixture. If we want to replace every light in town with increased wattage, that will be at 100% cost to the city of Freeport, because they only give the discounts, or whatever you want to call them, grants, discounts, or anything like that, for people that are reducing wattage and saving energy consumption. I did do the math, and I've said it up here 2 or 3 times at council. A new pole and a new light are about $13,000 a piece to install mid-block, wherever we want to put them. Again, we don't have those types of things in the budget right now, but if we get direction that that's what we want to do, we will put those plans together. I'm trying to put a stopgap to the safety stuff and move this safety priority ahead as quickly as possible, but not every one of our partners work as fast as we try to do. And, you know, when we're dealing with larger companies like this, we have to give them time to be able to react.
Alderman Sellers.
Yeah, I wanted to say I do agree with, a lot of the things that you said, because we have to give our, police department a chance. We have to get us a chance to get together and put the plan together. But I do also think that when the police department do their jobs and get these people, we also have to realize there's another component. There's the judicial system. They have to not just slap their hands. They have to do what they have to do, too, to help us. I'm sorry. And if we don't do that, they're back. So we're going to have repeated problems. So we all have to work together. So I do agree with, Chief, I'm glad you guys are out there doing what you do. And it's not that I said that I feel safe, because I don't live in fear. So I'm sorry if I hurt anyone's feelings, feeling that I didn't feel compassion, because that's where I live. So I have the passion. But I'm saying I feel safe and have peace, because if I see something, I'm going to say something. I have lights around my house, security lights. We also have to chip in on that also as residents. We can look for the city lights, and that's perfect, and I know we need them. But we also have to get spotlights around our house, a security camera around our doors. We have to also tell what's going on in our neighborhoods and be a part of it also. So that's my take on that.
Thank you.
I
Alderman
have a
Sanders.
question.
Alderman Sanders.
Yeah, I'm listening to everything collectively, and I'm listening to a lot of good things, and sounds like a lot of good detailed information is coming forward. My question is, and I like the fact that putting a plan in motion, and we have to be able to have the council to begin to talk about implementing these plans that are being brought up. And then we need someone in place to get these plans in motion. And so we're talking about it, great concepts, great ideas, great understanding of how to proceed and things of that nature. But we also need that one startup, and who is the person that leads us in those areas to give us final understanding of how we're going to proceed. We need that individual, and I'm looking for those people who are the people we as council have to look to understand, is there a strategic plan in place about these lightings? Is there a plan? I'm wondering if we're working on one. We should be talking about it constantly, because just coming back to council each week, bringing this thing up again, we're back at square one all over again, talking about the same subject. So we need to be able to make moves, get things started. Let's not be talking about it. Let's be about it. And so I'm just one of those kind of guys who's going to say, talk is enough. We know what we need to do, as a council. We know what we need to do as city manager, public works, or whatever the case is. We're not collaborating together to get this resolution started and to get it resolved. And so my thing is, where does the starting point start? Who's in charge? And how do we begin to proceed?
Alderman Simmons, did you have something?
Thank you. So before I do what I want to do, I would like to note that when we were all gung-ho about getting in on the grant to have a walkway put behind Highland, that was going to cost us about $300,000. Nobody mentioned cost. Nobody talked about other neighborhoods needing sidewalks. It was never an issue. So I would like to make a motion to direct staff to draw up a plan on what they plan to do with those 22 lights and additional, after we run out of those lights, what areas do you plan to hit by the March cow?
You want that plan before the March cow?
By, like, the March cow.
For
So
the
I'll give them time.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion on the floor made by Alderman Simmons, seconded by Alderman Monroe, as stated. Madam Clerk, do you need that resaid?
I have it, thank you.
Manager Boyer, did you have some input on that? Darren?
Yeah, I'll answer Alderman Sanders' questions. The memo that was in the packet for tonight outlined who's in charge, what the plan is, and how we're moving forward. All that was in the memo. And so Rob and I are in charge. We're moving forward already. We started last Thursday with his direction. And after this motion tonight, we'll have it all together for you. I can't tell you how soon it will happen. And we're going under the emergency authority to fund the lights. You guys will just have to figure out how to pay for them.
Yeah, thank you on that. That's part of our job. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, actually,
I'm sorry.
Thank you. So we have the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion itself about the plan for the 22 lights, et cetera? Yeah, Alderman
Mayor,
Clem.
can we just restate the motion since I couldn't hear it well?
Sure. Madam Clerk, can you restate that?
The motion is to direct staff to study the best use of the 22 lights, come up with a plan, even beyond the 22 lights.
Okay, thank
By
you.
the March.
By March cow, yes. I did
Darren,
get
is
that.
that possible?
Sure, by the cow. We'll do the best we can. I believe Miss Stacy had a question as well.
I'm sorry. Alderman Stacy, did you have something?
I did have a question pertaining to if Darren was saying we needed to make a motion to get it moving. Or
Yeah, that's what we just
is
did.
it moving forward with the emergency clause. But now that Alderman Rachel has already made the motion, I guess I'm just ready for a vote.
Yeah, that's our next step.
Okay.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
And Monroe.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0.
Item number 6 is the first reading of ordinance 2025-10. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving zoning map amendment at 18 South Chicago Avenue, submitted by Mitch Brito to examine the proposed zoning map change from a B12 general retail business to a B2 limited service business district.
Thank you. Director Duckman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So staff received a request for a petition for a zoning map amendment at 18 South Chicago Avenue. And essentially what is going on here is the tenant started, and I have a picture of the location up here on the map in case anybody was interested to see that. The tenant here started a dojo, and essentially before checking with our zoning ordinance, and came to us and said, you know, hey, I have this dojo, I need to get my certificate of occupancy, and I don't have the zoning. And so staff worked with the property owner to figure out a solution for this situation. And the solution here was a zoning map amendment. So currently it's zoned B1, and it would need to be zoned B2 in order to allow for this dojo that the tenant currently is operating. So this went to our Zoning Board of Appeals on February 6th, and it was recommended for approval of 5-0 with 0 abstentions. And on February 13th, it went to our Planning Commission with a vote of 6-0 with 0 abstentions. And in looking at the zoning map amendment to go from B1 to B2, in line with our Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Commission, staff's recommending approval or moving this ordinance to the next for a second reading.
Thank you. Is there a motion to move this forward?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Monroe. Is there discussion on this ordinance? Alderman Stacy?
Yes, what is a dojo?
It's karate, or it can be jujitsu, karate. It's essentially a martial arts studio.
Oh,
Alderman Simmons?
okay.
You're going to have to speak into your microphone.
She said, or sorry, go ahead. I didn't want to.
Just the difference between B1 and B2. I really could have asked him off to the side.
It's slightly more intense of a business use. It essentially would allow for, when this ordinance came out and was created, the writers of the ordinance thought that martial arts studios were more of an intense use than, per se, a retail store. So you would have to get higher zoning, less restrictive zoning to have a martial arts studio. That's essentially what it is. So there's a few uses that are more intense. Yep.
Alderman Sanders?
This is not on topic. I just wanted to ask you something in regards to zoning. And when I just wanted to make sure that our ordinance identify what areas that are supposed to get zonings and recognize whether or not residential can also be considered as commercial zoning if it comes from a residential location. Is there a difference when a person wants to start a business in a residential area or whatever? And is that considered where he needs a permit or need to be in the proper zoning locations? I'm just asking that question in general because that question came up to me.
Sure. I think you can always do a home occupied business, which essentially would be small accounting firm, person working for themselves. Maybe you're an architect, you're working for yourself, you're working out of your house, smaller law firm. Essentially, that's what you would call a home occupation business. And
Okay.
that's allowed. Usually what happens is by the time you start having more than one client at your house at one time, that's when you would you would become more of an intense land use, and you would be required to, start your business in a business zoned property, commercial zone property.
Right.
So the answer to your question is our ordinance allows people to have smaller businesses ran out of their house. And if somebody were to call me, my advice to them is always, once you start having multiple clients in your house, multiple times per day, that's when you really want to think about transitioning to a office space or
Right.
a more intense.
Right. Well, that was. I'm sorry.
Okay, so actually, I appreciate you wanting to have a better understanding, but you are correct. That has nothing to do with this ordinance.
Yeah.
So if you want to discuss this offline, I'm sure he'll pick up his phone anytime you want to discuss it.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Totally.
So is there any
Understood.
further discussion concerning this?
No.
Alderman Monroe.
No, I'm good right now. No, not discussion. Is there?
All right, then
Can I make a motion though?
we have a motion on the floor to move it forward. Did you want to make a
never
different-
mind.
Okay.
Or actually, can I make a motion on this to suspend the rules?
You can do it as you want.
Sure, I'll do that then.
Is there a second to motion for the suspension of the rules? Alderman Parker. So suspension of the rules is non-debatable and must pass by 2/3 majority. And so, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the suspension only?
Simmons. Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem. And Monroe.
Aye.
The suspension of the rules passes 7-0.
So then, Council, before you is the final reading of this ordinance. So if there's no further discussion on this, Madam Clerk, please take the roll on the passage of ordinance 2025-10.
Simmons. Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem. And Monroe.
Aye.
And the ordinance passes 7-0.
Thank you. Item number 7 is the first reading of ordinance 2025-11. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving hangar leases for A1 Dennis Miller, H1 Alexander Glockler, J Matt Van Bergen, L1 Ron Jansen, L2 Heritage Aviation, L3 Tango 34 LLC, L5 Paul Oda, L7 Pam Manis, M1 John Eink, M3 Greg Manuel, M4 Ken and Paula Irwin, M8 David Hayes, and N10 John Staben.
Is
Second.
there a second? Motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Any discussion on this ordinance? Alderman Sanders?
Yeah, I had to look at this carefully. There's not enough detailed information for the reason why we're bringing this ordinance to the council at this particular moment. And yeah,
Okay,
oh,
so
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
let's let him give his presentation, then we'll, Manager Board, did you have one?
It's going to be fairly concise. Last year, council asked that we get these leases squared away. We had
Yeah.
the new lease format. Council approved the new lease format. We've been systematically getting as many.
I don't, hold it, let me cut you off since you cut me off while I was right in the middle of mid-sentence. Yes, I was cut off right in the middle of mid-sentence. I never got a chance to complete my thought.
Okay, but
And-
he's just trying to help.
No, I didn't ask for that kind of help. I know what I want to actually say. I don't need no support
then say it.
bracket or whatever. Don't
have
do
the
that.
floor.
Don't do that, Mayor. Don't do that.
Well, actually,
Okay.
we were slightly out of order, and the attorney
No, I
reminded
was
me of it.
talking. I was in the midst of talking and trying to get my thought out when I was interrupted. That's what I'm trying to say to you. You're not listening. That's all. But what I'm saying is, I had an opportunity to look at this particular ordinance 2025-11, and I saw I was looking at the disparities that was within those leases. When I'm looking through those leases, the comparisons with those leases does not conform with the whole process and who's signing off on these leases and who's coming up with the detailed information about what should go into these leases. We have not had an opportunity to revise any of the leases that are being presented to us today. And I'm like, this should not even be on the agenda to even talk about it until we have covered all of those areas of those leases and had the detailed information that we need about it, because the lease does not sound like, read to me, adds up. It does not add up to me. And so when I come in here and I need to have questions on it, I don't want to vote on something that is half vague, half been presented, and the leases are not fully looked at to be talking about these leases. I understand they're there, but the comparisons from one hangar to the next one, it does not justify why certain lease amounts are being charged to certain hangars and not the other ones, and we need to understand why that is. And so that's the reason why I brought this up, because I'm not getting full understanding why we're talking about the leases when we have not been able to explain every item and the reason why we're having disparaging amounts that are being produced within these leases. And that's all I need to know. That's all.
Manager Boyer, would you like to give your presentation?
Absolutely. So the lease amounts are in ordinance set by council. Those amounts were reviewed by council with the airport manager who came to council and discussed that they were in line with the region in terms of what the lease rates are. And then we have been updating all the hangar leases with existing tenants who are already there and already had signed leases. All we're doing here is updating the lease form to more modern wording that has been brought to council and approved already. Does that answer your question?
Not fully. I want more. I want more detail.
Okay, this is kind of a formality. These leases already exist, and we're putting them on a new format at the same rate we have currently because that's been deemed to be the correct amount, and we're just asking for approval on these leases. That's all. These people are already here.
Alderman Parker, your hand was up.
Yeah, it makes sense to me, and I want to make a motion. We call the question and also to suspend the rules.
I just said I have a question.
Alderman Stacy did. Oh, she did say she informed us that she had a question, but Alderman Parker, you got the floor and you made a motion to call the question there, but you need a second on that and a vote.
So we have a motion on the floor to call the question. Is there a second to that?
I second. Oh. But do we get?
So my question means nothing.
That's a good point, Dovey. That's a good point because we only have a motion and a second to move this forward right now. So actually, thank you. Yeah. So your motion's not ready yet.
But he did say suspending the rules. So is that what you want to?
Yes. Suspend.
Okay. So
My question, I don't have a question.
Right, we're in the middle of a discussion what the previous alderman. We know you're there, Alderman Stacy. So we have a motion to suspend the rules. Do we have a second to that? So we have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Clem to suspend the rules. Suspension of the rules is non-debatable and must pass by 2/3 majority. So with that alone, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll? And Alderman Stacy, we'll come back to you.
Simmons? Parker?
Aye.
Stacy?
No.
No.
Sanders? Sellers?
Aye.
Clem? Monroe?
No.
That fails. 1, 2, 3, 4 to 3. Yeah.
So Alderman Stacy, you had a question.
Yes, I have a question. L2 and L3. Now, I thought L2 and L3 was both heritage. Am I wrong?
Manager Boyer, do you know?
Well,
Let me refer to
probably,
the
probably
leases.
me.
Yeah.
We worked from the spreadsheet that we have on file that the airport manager reviewed. I don't have the records in front of me.
Anytime we've spoken of heritage, we spoke of two.
Heritage Arrow is in 1, 2, and 3, and I know.
Let me just look it up here.
Okay, but this says L-2 heritage.
That's Heritage Aviation. That does not say Heritage Arrow. I believe it's a different entity.
Okay, so I'm being told that L2 and L3 is the same.
Well, in parentheses, it says it's a different hangar. Can you see that?
Tango 34 LLC just went into L3. That is not That is not a redo of an old lease. That is a new lease. And they've moved to a different hangar. So that one I'm quite certain because Angie dropped that off.
Was that in the presentation?
Excuse me?
Nothing.
So you're saying Rob, whoever is in L3. And Heritage Aviation is not in L2 and L3.
That is not my understanding.
So the ones with names, are they individual names or is some businesses but their name is listed?
If there
Is the business listed?
if there is a business, it is listed. If there is no business, it is not listed.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Why did we omit or black out the information of the lessee?
It's home addresses.
You know that you can find that information by the tail number, correct?
You can if you want. I am going to black out personal addresses.
Okay.
Alderman Sanders?
Yeah, observing some of those leases, when I kept saying that things didn't look right to me within those leases, and my one question would be is why why there's stenciling writing with a marker pen or whatever the case is within the lease I don't know if it's the last moment or when that was cited, but I don't know the date. When was that written into that lease? The lease has some kind of signature going on, but there's no date to it when that was put into a lease. And I looked at that and I'm like, wait a minute. We can't follow this because the fact that it's not dated. We don't have a point of origin of when this signature got put into these leases.
The lease.
Go ahead.
The lease begins. This lease agreement is made and entered into this first day of March, and all of the renewals are being done as of March 1st.
But the signature of the person at the end of the recipient of that lease, I can see where it's not dated. I can even see where it is where the city does not have dates on the leasing that I can see.
This lease agreement was approved by council.
Yeah.
And drafted by legal counsel.
Yeah, that's the funny.
Attorney Zito?
So the signature on the contract, you don't have to date your signature.
No, I'm reading. Yeah.
On there, and the fact that at the beginning of the lease, it says that the lease is effective March 1. That becomes people, and the date is March 1 because that's put up at the top there. Now, if we didn't have this lease goes into effect March 1, we didn't say that at the top, and we just typically if you date the signatures, then it's the effective date is the date that the second person to signs it, and then you date it there. So it's just that's kind of format versus anything substantive.
Any further discussion?
So do I understand what Attorney Zito just said is that all these leases listed on the agenda tonight will go in effect March 1st?
They're proposed, so they're drafted. These are just draft leases that you guys need to approve there. But yes, as proposed, they would go into effect March 1. Which is why on the agenda, They were being proposed to be presented to you guys for first read with a request to suspend the rules so that you guys could go to second read. And then if it was approved, ultimately, all that happened today, then we're obviously in February right now, so then them starting March 1 would make sense. But obviously, if there's been a vote to not suspend the rules, these would have to go to the next council meeting. So we would have to just update all these lease forms to change the start date.
So is that your preference, council, to change all these formats of? If it's not approved until the 3rd of March?
If it's not approved by the council, then yeah. So.
Alderman Sellers?
So, would this stop them from working in those, what are these called, hangars? I mean, would it stop these people's businesses, or these people would have to move their airplanes or whatever? Just.
From a practical standpoint, no, because we're literally, I mean, we're talking about March 1 versus March 3rd. I don't think anyone would kick anyone out for 2 days. Most leases, you would just be a holdover in that situation for a couple of days there, so.
So is it appropriate
a question.
to ask again for suspension of the rules, or can you not do that a second time?
If someone from the prevailing side, because we're at the same session, so this would be like
I
a
have a
motion to
question.
reconsider, but we have questions.
Alderman Stacy? Actually, that's your third,
To my
that's your third question,
knowledge.
so.
To my knowledge, these people are already in these hangars.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're not delaying anything. They're
What-
already in them.
Correct,
having
you're just
access
adding
to do
to,
whatever they want to do.
you're adding to the clerk's work is what
And the
you're
cost
doing.
of postage.
If you don't do the suspension of the rules, these already have the dates of the 1st, and the next council meeting isn't until the 3rd of March, which then means that she's going to have to change all of these dates.
Okay, so it's just like a scratch out on the 1st and put the 3rd, correct?
And then that has to be initialed by the party who has already signed. This will add a lot of work.
And I understand what you're saying, Miss Dovey. However, we've done it like this all along. They always have already been in there, existing. And it's something that we had to do. A vote was taken, it did not pass. So I say we move forward, and it carries over to the next council meeting.
Well, that's where the motion stands right now, to move it to the next council meeting. My question was, do you want to reconsider the suspension of the rules so that way we don't add unnecessary work to the clerk? That was my only question. So if that's the case, if someone wants to make that motion, we'll move in that direction.
Mayor,
Clerk?
it will also add postage. I'll have to get initials from the other party. This isn't a tiny thing. These cost like $1.50 to mail each one.
I still don't have an understanding on my question for L3.
Well, look what it says in the packet.
Okay, Mayor, I'm looking at it. So don't discredit my ability to see.
I'm not discrediting anything. It says who L2 is, and it says who L3 is. They're not the same.
When I spoke with city manager, I was informed that L2 and L3 are the same people.
Manager Boyer, do you have a response?
Alderman, Alderperson, I'm not aware of what you're referring to.
Alderman Clem, did you have your hand up?
I was gonna bring up, for 50 years, we never saw these and never had a problem and never had hours of discussion. And all you gotta do is hold two people accountable for it. Why did we change this whole thing? You know, this is asinine to sit here and go through these that we care less who's in them. I mean, all anybody's worrying about is X number of dollars rental. Are they full? Are they taken care of? You got a person that already manages the airport. You don't have the commission anymore, but you got a city manager that oversees it. You know, this is just a complete slow up of everything, and we're sitting there now going back to redo what we've already done. I mean, to me, don't get me wrong, I'm maybe alone, but can't see where it makes absolutely any sense for us to go over these. We spent hours, not just this time, on every lease that's come around.
Okay, so.
Well, it is my desire that every lease don't even have to come to the council, and that they could be signed off by the manager of the airport. But until that happens, and until we get stable to a place where that can happen, it is what it is.
Okay, so is it the desire of the council to just move this to the March council, or is it the desire of the council to ask for another suspension? Please indicate. Alderman Sanders.
Yes, it was before you made that statement or that comment. Are we in the business of just making general commentary about a particular item on the agenda, that someone can just go off and start having commentary of his concept and what he believes in without bringing any kind of solutions,
If you're referring to me, I just discussed it.
Hey, I'm not talking to you, but I'm asking a question.
Make sure we were all clear.
No, you make sure you're all clear.
Come on, gentlemen.
It's not about making commentary on a subject of topics on the agenda. It's not your business to do that to us, preach to us. We're just as equal as you are, or maybe more. But the point I'm making is, can you officially make commentaries like that during council without adding a question to it, or why you're stating what you're stating?
Attorney Zito.
Alderman Clem's comment was regarding the agenda topic about the airport leases. So from that standpoint, he was on point. He didn't have a question. He didn't whatever. He was just making a comment that was on point on the agenda topic there. So that said, Mayor, you asked me where we at. Right now, where we stand is there's a motion and a second to move this ordinance forward to next council meeting. The motion to suspend the rules. If there wants to be a motion to reconsider the suspension of the rules, it has to be made by someone on the prevailing side, which was anyone who voted no on the suspension of the rules. If no one makes that motion from the prevailing side, then we move on to the next topic, because this goes on to the next council meeting.
I make a motion that we move it on, just to move it on. Sorry, Bill. Yeah, oh, okay, well, let's take a vote.
Okay, sorry, clerk. Item number 8 is the first reading of ordinance 2025-12. Could you please read this?
Ordinance amending chapters 1248 and 1252 of the zoning code of the city of Freeport concerning storage facilities in business and agricultural districts.
Thank you. Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I put up the zoning map for the city so everyone can kind of see here and get a better idea of what this text amendment is proposing. So our industrial, what's in purple here are our manufacturing districts, and what's in red is our business districts. And then what's in yellow, I know Alderperson Sanders had a question earlier about residential zoning districts. What's your yellow is your residential zoning districts. And this is pretty much a typical of a city. You have your retail business corridors in red along major thoroughfares in the city, and then you have most of your industrial manufacturing isolated into industrial parks, and then most of your city is going to be residential. So with that being said, this text amendment is to limit self-storage or self-service storage facilities only to the areas in purple, which would be your industrial, your manufacturing zoning districts. Currently, if you're in a B3 zoning district, which many of these red areas are, not all of them, but many of the red areas are going to be in your B3 zoning district. What we've had in the last year here is we've had an influx of self-storage facilities. First one would be the old Moose Lodge on South Street, across from La Patrona. That got turned into an indoor storage facility, large area on a commercial corridor. And then also, most recently, also off of South Street along that same corridor on Ime Boulevard. Sorry, take that back. That's Rosenteal off of Locust. You have our Cube Smart there recently coming to town, and they're in the process of doing another large expansion. And so with that coming in, staff has worked with our planning commission and has really investigated this influx into our business corridors of these self-storage facilities that take up large geographic areas, don't offer much employment, and certainly not a fit with many of our residential / shopping type areas, especially along these corridors here. So with that being said, staff brought this text amendment to the Planning Commission, which was held on February 13th, and it was recommended for approval by a vote of 6-0. So in line with our Planning Commission, staff is recommending approval, or this is a ordinance recommending moving this ordinance forward to the next meeting.
Thank you, Director Duckman. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Parker, to move ordinance 2025-12 on to the next meeting. Any discussion? Move on to item number 9.
Resolution approving retainer with Napoli and Skolnick for potential litigation of PFAS at Alberta's airport.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. So as we've talked about in the past, the forever chemicals that are in the ground in certain areas in Freeport. We've worked very diligently to get source water that is completely free of these forever chemicals, and we've been very successful with that. Napoli Shikolnik is our legal representation related to the class action lawsuit against all the manufacturers of these forever chemicals. And they've approached the city about representing us related to airports. So this is a little different than what we did in the past, which was essentially source water for the city. This relates back to these firefighting foams and things in the past have been used on airports because they're very helpful in terms of extinguishing fires, fuel fires, that type of thing. At this time, staff does not believe there is actually any use of these at the airport. However, it really doesn't hurt anything to be a part of this suit, especially if we, as part of this suit, we end up doing some core samples and maybe there was, something there that no one knew about. However, I think this just provides an opportunity, and if there is a settlement, there's no guarantee that it would exclude the city of Freeport. So staff's request is to move forward with the agreement with Napoli Shikolnik for the airport.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Clem. Discussion. Darren?
Just wanted to point out that I emailed everybody. The question at the last meeting was if we had a test out there recently, and we've had one within the last 2 months with no detect.
Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
And Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Item number 10 is the adoption of Resolution 2025-16. Could you please read this?
Resolution, that doesn't read right. Resolution ESRI Municipal and County Enterprise Agreement for GIS, 3 years.
Director Sutman.
Hello, Council. This is the 3-year agreement for the GIS software that we discussed last week at the COW. We believe this will greatly improve the record keeping, drafting, and field reference of field staff, as well as make for a valuable project planning tool. And we recommend moving forward this agreement. Any questions?
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Monroe. Discussion, Alderman Sanders.
He asked a question.
Yeah, but he
I was out of turn.
he needed to have, that wasn't the right protocol, so.
Okay.
Yeah, the right protocol. So did you have something?
Yes.
Alderman Sanders.
Yes. Let me have my thought before I spill my beans. Do you have a big enough staff to incorporate this GIS study or GIS
Data.
program? Do you have a big enough staff that can do an effective job of running that particular program? Do you have the quality people or the people that has the proper training to run that particular software program, and how to make sure that data is not tainted in any way, shape, or form? Do we have people like that? Are we working on it, or do we have people on staff that is looking into it, or to increase the staffing that is going to be required to do this complete study of all that data information?
Yeah, so I think the IT department has the ability on the back end. I think between me and Eric, we have something like 30 years of experience in GIS, and then the IT systems. Most of the training will have to be done for like the field staff and other office people who are using the software. As far as ensuring the data, since think of it as a map with a database behind it, we can set data integrity rules on it to where maybe a person in the field types in the information, a date when an inlet was cleaned or something. We can monitor that and check it in. So there's like a secondary check on that data before it enters the live system.
Oh, okay. Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Darren?
So the beauty of the data that Kurt's talking about here, so we already have a program. This would expand it greatly. Right now, we're overusing the program that we currently have, that GIS, the IT department, and the utility shares. We use this data every day for Julie locates, for design plans for NICOR, ComEd. We supply the information in the area they're working to make sure that they're not damaging our utilities. It also goes hands in hand with our projects that Fair Graham does for the city, because we use GIS to locate everything, and we can update that data to Kurt with the expansion of this system, and it can be automatically updated in their system after he approves it. So it'd be a lot more valuable data for the city. We've already invested a ton of money in GIS systems over the years. That's how Kurt actually got his start with the city, was a grant program to build GIS, and he expanded it. So for a town our size, we have a very good GIS system, but again, it was meant for one user when we got it. We currently have probably 8+ people on it, and so we're overusing the system that we have now. And what he's proposing will have a lot more data for us.
Alderman Sanders?
Yeah, very good, Darren. I didn't see that coming, but it's good to know that that's out there, that we have those type of people in place, that we can continue to do surveys and studies that will improve our data consumption and strategy, how we're going to be planning. One of my thing is what you brought out to us, whether or not anything else that GIS will do for the city. I know you can't explain the whole program, but I'm talking about the significant parts, and what you brought to my understanding that is part of the equation, doing these real high quality studies of whatever project programs that you're doing for the city, and that we have the proper staffing to make sure that we're providing proficiency throughout the city. I appreciate that. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
And Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Item number 11 is the adoption of Resolution 2025-17. Could you please read this?
Resolution adopting the Northwest Illinois Safety Action Plan as a part of participating in Stevenson County's application to the U.S. DOT Federal Highway Administration Safe Streets for All, or SS4A grant.
Thank you. Darren?
Yeah. So we discussed this at the COW last week. This is simply a resolution stating that if the county moves forward, when they move forward with the project that's already underway, if there's any implementation money, Freeport would be part of the planning to use that implementation on the project. We have a handful of draft projects. It's all in draft mode at this time that could or could not be included in the program. So again, this resolution is just uniting fronts to show that we're part of the program and we want to be part of the program. We've already put a lot of time and effort into that program to make sure that when implementation comes that we would get it. So this is just the council approval to be part of that. There is no financial for this. It's just a resolution approval.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion on the resolution? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
I have a question.
Okay, Alderman Stacy?
Yes. Is this what the guy spoke about? Matt, I believe was his name.
No, it is not. This is a separate program that the city is a small part of with 6 other counties. The program that Matt talked about is very similar to this, but that one is only focused on the city of Freeport, only, no other partners in it.
Okay, so can you tell me, like, who are the partners in this one?
Sure. I might not get them all, but it's Stevenson County, City of Freeport, Lee County, Joe Davies County, Ogle County, and I believe there's one more. Carroll.
In Whiteside.
And Whiteside. So those are all the partners in there. They're going after, it's a giant traffic study. We started our project with the county. They asked us to be part of it. And then we realized the potential for Freeport could be a lot bigger. That's why we went and started our own plan to see if we couldn't get more implementation money for the city of Freeport.
Okay, so I understand that there's no cost up front. But in the long run, if this was something that the city chose to be a part of, what are we looking at?
There was no cost for the study, which is what this program was. We had no involvement in any cost or fee for it. They just asked us to be part of the process in the county. And if there's implementation money, we'll have to see what those rules are at the time. It may be 80-20 for a project. It might be 90-10. It might be 100% based on disadvantaged community status. But we won't know that till there's an offer. And with the current president, some of those rules may be changing along the way.
Okay.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Item number 12 is the adoption of Resolution 2025-18. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving audit engagement letter with Lauterbach and Amon to provide auditing services to the city.
Thank you. Director Richter?
Thank you, Your Honor. In January of 2023, the Finance Department issued a request for a proposal for auditing services for the fiscal years of 2022 and through 2026. On February 6th of 2023, City Council approved the bid from Lauterbach and Amon. Past practice has been to obtain multi-year proposals during the RFP process. However, individual engagement letters are signed for each of the fiscal years to be audited. Lauterbach and Amon's fees for the city's 2024 audit year are $44,100. This is a 3% increase from 2023. At the time of the RFP, the communities of Rockford, Rock Island, and East Moline all gave positive responses in favor of Lauterbach and Amon's performance. In addition, the City of Freeport's 2023 audit was prepared accurately, on time, and all interactions were professional. Their team is very experienced in the area of municipal government. The purpose of an engagement letter is to define the scope of the audit, specify the timeline of the audit and related deliverables, define the fee arrangement, and outline the auditor's and management's responsibilities. The strategic plan alignment here is responsive and efficient government, and staff request approval of the fiscal year 2024 engagement letter from Lauterbach and Amon.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
A motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Clem. Discussion on the resolution. Alderman Sanders.
Yeah, okay, approving an audit engagement letter with this particular agency. How long have the city been involved with this particular agency?
We have been involved with them on this agreement since 2022, so the audit for 22 and 23 were done by L&A, Lauterbach and Amon. We also did work with them previously before our past auditors. Our past auditors were Whitfley, and Lauterbach and Amon were here 2016, 2017. I'm sorry, I'd have to look up the dates, but they had been here before.
Yeah, well, do we make a practice of using the same auditors every time an auditing session takes place? And do we, and I understand this last one that you was referring to, do a full scope of the whole auditing process. I just wanted to find out how involved are these auditors into the whole lucrative of the city and the whole business of the city, and who is pointing directions to auditors, who is giving them their guidance to where to look and do the auditing surveys and things of this nature. Who is the individuals that do that to help them through the process?
So kind of two things here. The GFOA, which is my professional organization, one of their best practices is to be with a certain auditor at least 5 years. You don't have to be, it's just a guideline, but it's a best practice. As far as who directs them, they have their own guidelines and requirements when they're doing an audit. Now, as far as, I mean, I give them what they ask for, me and my staff. They come to me and want to see accounts payable, they want to see payroll, any of that, we give it to them.
Okay.
But they have their own standards and guidelines that they need to do in order to perform the audit. That's not dictated by me.
Yeah, could you submit that to council of what their tasks are, that we can do some observations ourselves in terms of how they're doing their practices as far as auditing is concerned? I like to see us be able to engage our auditors who are auditing the city of Freeport, and especially in this administration. I like for us to be able to be more detailed in what they're doing and how they're going about doing their task. I just want us to be more informed, is what I'm getting at. Some council people are not okay with just auditors showing up, and we don't understand the whole process of it. Some council might be fine with whatever they do or say. You know, all of us are not the same, and so I'm just asking for a demonstration of a soft task of what they're doing, so we get the logistics of what they're presenting to us. Can we do that?
I'll I'll get you something.
Okay, thank you.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll on the resolution.
I'm sorry, First Mayor, who made the motion?
Parker Clem.
Okay, and on roll call, Simmons. Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
And Monroe.
No.
The resolution is adopted 6-1.
Item number 13 is the adoption of Resolution 2025-19. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving the purchase of a street painting machine from Sherwin-Williams.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Our current paint machine that stripes the lanes on the streets, I think it's like 25 years old. It's very old, it's worn out, and it's time to be replaced. We plan for the purchase in the 2025 street budget, and so we're bringing this to you for approval. The price of the new striping equipment is $11,706.50, and this is a Sourcewell dealer. So that is state approved there. So staff requests council approval of this resolution.
Is there such a motion?
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion on the resolution. Alderman
I
Monroe.
have a question.
Alderman Monroe. Alderman Stacy.
Yes, I'm just curious, why something of this nature purchased through Sherwin-Williams?
That didn't come through very clear. Can you say it again?
Yes, why is it purchased through Sherwin-Williams?
Manager Boyer.
The answer is they're a dealer for Graco, and I believe they're local. So, and being a Sourcewell dealer, they offer the state pricing on this equipment.
So you are going with the Sherwin-Williams local?
Yes.
Alderman Monroe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Manager, can you just briefly describe what being a Sourcewell state appropriated or whatever, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sourcewell dealers are qualified by the state to provide lowest pricing for municipalities. So when you have that certification, it's no longer necessary to pursue other bids on a piece of equipment. That is the state approved price. So
thank you.
Darren.
Just because I wanted to know, we don't buy a lot of paint machines. We did actually get 3 prices on this just to back it up that the Sourcewell price was the cheapest price.
If there's no further discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah. Alderman Sanders.
I like to see this machine. I want to see this machine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like to see whether or not it provides the adequate environment protection and safety with this equipment, because the one that you're referring to 25 years ago and still running, it's not all that adequate for this time and age, you know, with the traffic that we got going on, and these guys are out there trying to do their task. But I'm wondering if we're doing it in a safe manner, whether or not this equipment puts them in that kind of safety zone for the purchase of that type of equipment.
Darren. Or City Manager.
Yeah, that's a great concern. Safety is really important. We have a trace vehicle, flaggers, and stuff that go along with the operator of the machine.
Good. That answers my question.
So we'll just pause for a moment, waiting for the clerk to come back to take the roll. When you're ready, you can go ahead and take the roll for the adoption of Resolution 2025-19.
Simmons. Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
And Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Item number 14 is the adoption of Resolution 2025-20. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving the transfer of property commonly known as 431 and 437 South Adams Avenue from Stevenson County to the city of Freeport.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. As discussed at the January COW, we went over these two parcels. The county would like the city to take those over for $1, and the city would like to keep them for future development potential. So staff recommends moving forward with the agreement, the resolution for the transfer of property.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Clem. Discussion on the resolution. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons. Oh,
I have a question.
Alderman Stacy?
Yes. Would the city consider using that area for a park? What are your plans with that merchandise?
There's a couple of options. Obviously, public spaces is one. However, we're also looking at infill housing as another potential purpose of it.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
And Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Item number 15 is the adoption of Resolution 2025-22. Could you please read this?
Resolution ratifying emergency snowplow purchase from Monroe Truck Equipment.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. This year during snow removal operations, we had one of our older plows that's fully depreciated fail in a way that is not repairable. Staff, due to the fact that we have to maintain snow removal operations, staff went to Monroe Truck and replaced that plow, and staff is requesting ratification of that purchase at $11,598.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Alderman Sanders.
Would this be new or used?
Oh, it's new.
Be new?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I needed to know.
Madam
I have a
Clerk.
question.
Alderman Stacy.
Yes. If I'm not mistaken, we budgeted for this last year, but it didn't happen.
I don't recall,
that true?
Alderperson Stacy.
You don't recall?
No.
Okay. So, we're approaching the end of the winter season. Would it be a difference in cost if we did this in July compared to now?
I don't believe there would be any change in cost. The situation with plows are essentially they manufacture them for the chassis. They cost the same whether you buy it in the summer or you buy it. They're not sitting on a shelf somewhere.
So in season compared to out of season means nothing.
Darren.
So Monroe Truck's the Sourcewell price, so the 2025 price would have been the same price for all of 25. It's a locked-in state Sourcewell price. We did price
Okay.
this plow last year, and it was, I believe, $300 more than it was in 2024 when we priced it.
So we did budget in 2024, but we didn't.
If I'm not mistaken, we actually did buy a plow last year, but we couldn't afford to buy multiple plows. So I think we actually did buy it one under emergency authority again last season. And this one we tried to repair, but the mechanics sent me an email that they could not repair it any further.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons.
this isn't coming out of the budget, this is coming out of emergency fund?
No, this item will have to be bought through the streets, the budget. We'll just have to move some priorities around to be able to pay for it because we really didn't have a choice with the season that's upon us. With a truck being drowned, like you had texted me, we can't get all the routes done in a reasonable time. We don't have extra snow equipment. We only have enough for the trucks that we have.
So water, the street, or water?
This will be coming out of streets.
Aye.
Thank you, Parker. Stacy?
Aye.
Sanders is currently absent. Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
And Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 6-0.
Item number 16 is the adoption of Resolution 2025-23. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving an agreement with Fairgram to provide bridge inspection services for the city bridges located on Hancock Avenue and on Van Buren Avenue.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. The city's got two bridges that we have to inspect every year. One is Hancock, and the other one is the Van Buren Walk-Ride Bridge that goes north of town. We used to have three. The Park Court Bridge, which was removed a couple years ago because of its degraded structure and so unsafe condition. Fairgram is the city bridge inspector, and they have a team of certified and licensed personnel for this work. All inspections must be completed and finalized and reported to the state before June 30th, and staff recommends the city move forward to approve the agreement.
Is there a motion to adopt?
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Clem. Discussion on the resolution.
I have just a question.
Alderman Sellers?
It's also about, I know you mentioned a couple different, the two bridges. Is it the city's responsibility to check the bridge that is over by Tuddy Crossing, or who does that bridge? Or is that park?
That is ours, but Darren, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, those structures are a little bit different because they're connected to parks. So parks has their own contracts that have bridges inspected, like the Crape Park Bridge and the other crossing bridge down there, and they're actually on a different schedule. So because they connect to the trail, those are inspected as part of the trail projects.
Okay. And then just one more. How about the bridge that's Stevenson? Is that checked? Do we ever check that, or?
That's an IDOT bridge.
IDOT.
They own Route 75, so they have their own inspectors of that one.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Alderman Stacy, did you have a question?
No, I'm good.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Simmons?
I'm sorry, I do have a question.
Okay.
I have the floor. So, the inspection, is that different than what you did before we approved the program to move forward to start repairing Hancock Bridge?
Yeah. The IDOT has a series of special documentation practices that have to be done on each bridge, and I might have misstated it. It's every other year that you have to do it, so we've done it 2 years ago. Hancock Bridge is actually one that has to be done right now every year because of the poor condition until we have it replaced, which that's on the replacement schedule. We're working with IDOT to try to get that bid yet this year. But it still requires an inspection because they're due at a certain deadline date. No matter, once it's under construction, there won't be another one until it's finalized from construction, and then that'll go back on a every other year analysis. But it is required to do the paperwork and have a certified bridge inspector do that paperwork.
Okay, thank you.
Parker?
Aye.
Stacy?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Thank you. Item number 17 is the adoption of Resolution 2025-24. Could you please read this?
Resolution ratifying emergency salt spreader purchase from Monroe Truck Equipment.
Thank you. Manager Boyer?
Thank you, Your Honor. This season, we were during snow removal operations. There was damage to one of our salt spreaders. I believe it was a 1-ton chassis spreader. Yeah. So Staff received a quote for $10,223 to purchase a new one, and staff recommends council emergency ratification of this
Is there a
resolution.
motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Monroe. Discussion on the ordinance, or the resolution, Alderman Sanders.
Yeah, just wanted to ask you, you quoted 10,000 to have it repaired or have it replaced?
It needs to be replaced. So it's a plastic poly box with a large stainless steel impeller situation and auger set up in the back, and it was damaged during during
And it's
plow.
unrepairable.
Correct.
Cannot repair it. Okay.
No further discussion. Madam Clerk, please take the roll. Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Monroe.
It's all good. City Manager and Public Works Director, the question I have is, we seem to be applying salt at a varying, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like we salt for a second, we stop salting, then we salt again, especially on some of the hilly sections of the northwest side of town. Is there, will this help us spread the salt better so it's more consistent, or that we can maintain, because to give you kind of an example, there's a couple of areas in the second ward where it's very hilly, people park on the street, and it really creates a significant hazard driving on that side of the town. Just looking for some
Yeah,
feedback.
so the specific item that we're talking about on the agenda, it's a water and sewer salt spreader, so it's used for all of our water sewer facilities because they do all the plowing. This isn't a street unit.
Okay.
Because of the amount of streets that we have segregation of duties, so the water and sewer guys actually plow their own properties. That's what this spreader is
Okay,
for.
gotcha.
But I will talk to the street department. I have noticed, we do have some new people plowing this year, so I don't know what wards they're on, but we have been, with the events that were coming, we were trying to pre-salt and get salt out there that gets kicked around by cars to make sure that we can buy some more time at night. So you probably saw in the last events, Pat Ingram had all the crews out pre-salting the day before, trying to get, as much down as possible to keep the streets clear.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Sanders.
What type of vehicle are we using to apply the salt spreading? Is it one of our?
For this project here, this is actually a 1-ton vehicle that has a salt spreader box that sets right in.
That's what I thought.
The old combination unit was a salt spreader that we used the bed of the truck, and then this was an attachment that was on the back. During water and sewer construction, it was continuously getting beat up because we use it for main repairs as well. Okay. So the new unit that we've got was a complete box that can be set in, set out, so it doesn't get damaged during construction.
So that's just one vehicle?
Yes, sir.
One vehicle, and have we done an assessment with all of the vehicles to determine whether or not they need to be upgraded as well?
We are, yes. We continuously evaluate the fleet to see if there's anything we can do to update them. And actually, this style of box is part of that upgrade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are corrosion resistant other than some of the moving parts that are made of plastic.
Okay, good, good.
There's no further discussion. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Thank you. Item number 18 is the adoption of Resolution 2025-25. Could you please read this?
Resolution ratifying emergency demolition of the structure located at 402 to 404 East Shawnee Street by Albert and Son Earthworks.
Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 402-404 East Shawnee was declared a chronic nuisance on May 16th of 2024, as well as a dangerous and unsafe structure. The city posted its notice for statutory fast-track demolition on September 3rd of 2024, and due to the immediate health and safety concern, bids were solicited on December 11th, 2024 from 3 contractors. I attached those 3 solicitations as part of the memo. And then in accordance with our ordinances, I selected Albert and Son Earthworks, who submitted the lowest responsible bid of $19,700. The other bids that were brought back were Northern Illinois Service Company provided a bid of $29,837, and Fisher Excavating did not respond to our request for bid. The city moved forward with Albert & Son Earthworks as the lowest responsible bidder to perform the emergency demolition work, which was subsequently completed on December 27th of 2024. And this property was demolished within the 120 days of the original posting in accordance with Illinois statute. Staff recommends approval to remit payment to Albert & Son Earthworks for the emergency demolition of 402-404 East Shawnee.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion, Alderman Sanders.
Yeah, how much did that demolition cost? And whether or not it cost the city to have that demoed?
It's the $19,700.
Okay, that was the lowest bid that you come up with?
Yes. Yes.
And all of the bidders or the people that they had a, well, what I wanted to say is, did we get the property regulated like it should, as far as old utilities, possible damaged structures and things of this nature to the primary grounds itself and in adjunction to the city's utilities?
Everything was properly inspected during this demolition. There was also an asbestos inspection performed.
Okay.
So all of the requirements in that aspect were met.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, Madam
I
Clerk?
have a question.
Alderman Stacy?
Director Duckman, when you did your presentation, why wasn't these totals presented at that time?
Well, when I to approve this resolution, I would need the actual invoice for approval. So that's what you're approving today, is the invoice for payment. So at that time, the focus of the conversation, I believe, was the status of 402-404 East Shawnee, which I went into. At that time, I certainly could have provided this process. And in the memo, I provided the emails that were sent to the contractors. I provided the bids that came back. So it was really just a matter of not requested to present that information, but certainly I could have presented at that time.
Okay, to my knowledge and understanding, there was a lot of things done that were not approved to be done. There was things that had been halted that was not halted, according to the owner. Am I correct?
I've not spoke with Tiffany Sanders on this, who's the property owner. So Tiffany Sanders hasn't brought anything to my attention. There was a motion or a petition filed on October 27th, which was dismissed, and there was another on December 19th, and on December 19th, there was a motion which was dismissed on December 27th, which is when the demolition occurred, and there was another petition filed on December 27th, which has a status hearing on March 28th at the circuit court.
So the city was not given, per judge request, a halt.
No, sorry, I apologize. Go ahead.
I had the understanding that a judge had put a stop demo on this property, and it was taken down anyway.
No, actually, the complete opposite is true. There were two actual petitions that were dismissed.
And when were those?
There was a petition on October 19th, which was dismissed on December 19th. Then on December 19th, another petition was filed, which was dismissed on December 27th.
Alderman Clem?
Director Duckman, how long had this house been on the list for as a chronic nuisance, and how long had the penalties been going on it? Just a ballpark.
It became a chronic nuisance in May, on May 16th of 2024, when it was also deemed dangerous and unsafe. And then it's been well over a year where it's received several code violations, and right now it has a lien on it for over $14,000 for the code violations.
Thank you very much.
There's no, Alderman Simmons?
I'm sorry, what did you say about March 28th? Something about you got another hearing or March 28th?
So there's another petition filed after the demolition. There's another petition filed which is going to have a status hearing at the Stevenson County Circuit Clerk on March 28th.
Alderman Monroe?
So, Director Duckman, are you saying you weren't served that paperwork at the courthouse on the 27th of December?
That is correct.
Okay.
Not you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons,
No.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
No.
Sanders,
No.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe.
I abstain.
We are tied 3-3. Does this just need simple majority? Mayor? No?
They've already done the work. We own.
Okay, you you understand this work's already been done, and we have an invoice to pay. This is going to give us, the city, a bad reputation that we are not paying for the work that we've done. Is this really where we're standing, Alderman Duck?
I think the alternative would just be that the contractor could just file suit and we would just settle it in a closed session. So it's really, however, if the council wants to send the message that we're going to have our staff direct them, solicit bids, and then have them do the work, and then the council's not going to pay them. I mean, honestly, if the issue's with me directing the work, have the issue with me. I mean, you can talk to City Manager Rob Boyer and ask for me to be disciplined, terminated, and I can live with that because I stand behind my decision on what I did to hire this contractor. Punishing this contractor and making them sue the city to be paid. I mean, if the issue's with me, understood. I mean, I could take, any punishment that comes my way up to termination, but I don't believe a contractor who was solicited a bid, did the work, bid on the project, I don't think they should be punished because it was all from my direction. And I'll take any, criticism, discipline from, my from City Manager Boyer. I can live with that. But I just don't think I don't think it's fair to punish a contractor taking direction from a city employee.
Everyone's cast a vote already. So unless someone speaks up and says that they want to change the vote is 3-3. And arguably, Mayor, you can call for one vote.
I don't understand why I'm not. I didn't understand my explanation.
It's a 3-3 tie, so you can call for the mayor's vote.
Okay, Mayor, what say you?
Aye.
But that's 4-3. That's still not a majority on a resolution because we need 5, so it still fails.
So you're saying we need a majority of those seated, not those present?
Correct.
Oh. I see.
I got a comment.
Darren?
Yeah, I think just to back Wayne up, because we do contract work all the time, this will just cost the city more money because we will be paying attorney fees and their attorney fees for the demo that happened. This was a bid project. This wasn't a handshake agreement. He has a signed contract to move forward. So this is a bill that we will pay regardless of our feelings on it.
So those that voted no, is there any reconsideration? Okay, I guess we'll move forward. Item number 19, could you please read this discussion?
Discussion regarding resolution approving engineering agreement with Fairgram to apply for surface transportation program. That's the urban program, STU funding for 2026 street program.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Being that we've accrued a certain amount of federal funding in our MFT accounts, we would like to deploy those funds as rapidly as possible. We were hoping to get that done yet this year. However, due to environmental requirements, that will not be possible yet this year. However, we can set ourselves up for 2026. So the Public Works staff has had adequate time to assemble a full proposal. We don't have it completely for you tonight, but just an abbreviated version. We're looking at Lincoln Boulevard from Locust to West, Stevenson Street from Locust to Sunset, Adams Avenue, that would be the west half, so the part that was not completed in the Adams Avenue project, get that finished up from Exchange to Float, and then Walnut Avenue from Empire to South. So staff is asking this to be move forward to the March 3rd agenda.
Is there a motion to move this forward to the March 3rd agenda?
Second.
The motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion on this?
Yes, I have a question.
Alderman Stacy?
Maybe it's not a question, maybe it's a statement. I have nothing against the federal money and the street program. However, I think it's deployed to take our eyes off of what we really need to be looking at. And this is what we mean when we talk about prioritizing. There's so much. For example, lighting. For example, crime prevention plan that we need to be giving our focus to and directing and finding funds to deal with what needs to be prioritized for our cities. Not creating another avenue to go down that is not a priority.
Darren, you want to?
Yeah, so this is the program that we talked about at the COW meeting. This is the surface transportation program. This money can't be used for anything other than roads. This was the $2.5 million that we talked about that we need to do the design on. Not to be disrespectful, the streets are in our 24 to 26 strategic plan, so I tried to find a creative way to get more money to do, I believe this totals a little over 2.5 miles of roadway. It was moved forward to this meeting. I just didn't have time to assemble the proposal, so I asked for till the March meeting to assemble the proposal. But again, at the COW, it was stated that if we want to move forward with the surface transportation funds for these streets of $2.5 million, the city needs to do the design for that to get the funding allocated to these streets. So I just want to make sure nobody thought this was a different program.
Alderman
This is the
Sanders.
program with the MAC guys.
No, it is not. This is the surface transportation funds that we talked about at the cow last week. This is strictly mill and overlays and ADA ramps on the streets that were listed in the agenda memo.
So I thought that we were up on our ADA ramps 100% for our city.
No, that's incorrect. We have, I couldn't give you an exact number, but it's over 10,000 ramps that are not compliant within the city limits, probably closer to 15,000. Excuse me, 1,500. Sorry, 1,500.
I understand that
Put
better.
one too many zeros.
We've annexed Rockford.
Okay, so if there's no further discussion, this will be moved to the next. Oh, Alderman Sanders. I didn't know you had your hand up. Alderman Sanders.
Waving the white flag. You didn't see me waving the white flag? I did not. You gonna tell me
Alderman Sanders, would you like to say something?
you're gonna be colorblind on me? Yeah. I just want to ask, where are you? Is there a planning to apply this this particular grant, and what does Urban STU stand for? Funding. What is that all about?
So the memo has the 4 streets that we've aligned, which, let me pull it up. Again, it's Lincoln Boulevard from Locust to West, which is about 1,500 linear feet. Stevenson Street from Locust to Sunset, excluding West Street. We won't do IDOT corridors. Adams Street, which would be from Float to Exchange, so it's the portion that we weren't able to finish this year. We wanted to finish that project. And then Walnut Avenue, which would be the south leg from Empire to South Street. And the reason the north side's not on here is the north side of Empire needs a full reconstruct, and we don't have that many dollars to do it. The south end is in a repair that we think we can mill and overlay it and do some base repairs and fix the south section, which that's for a later discussion, but Walnut Avenue has to be probably one of the bigger discussions on how we are going to repair I'm calling it the north leg, but it would be from Main to Empire, because it's in really bad shape, and that's going to be a full reconstruct, and it's going to be a lot of money.
So the grant will facilitate any for the accomplishment that the grant is presented to do. Any access will be utilized in other areas, reallocated for other areas.
I don't understand what you mean by access. Or excess?
Yeah, the access funding.
No,
Yeah.
that money can only be used on the targeted projects that we submit. So if
there's any,
this is just a high level estimate.
Yeah,
If
if
it's
there's any
2.3
extras-
million, that's all we'll use. If it's 2.7, we have that much reserved. So the estimate said 2.5, so that's what I'm going with until we do some more.
Yeah, and
design.
if there's any overlay with the cost, if there's any any additional fundings that are left over, I'll put it in layman's term.
If it's left over, it has to go back into the STU account.
It has to go back. Okay, that's
Yes.
what I wanted to find out. Thank you.
Alderman Monroe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Darren, why are we stopping at Sunset and not trying to figure out that last little block?
Sure, because Park intersection is on this year, and we're planning on extending that to
I forgot that.
Sunset.
Yep, thank
Because
you.
we have to do the ADA ramps anyway, so I just was going to extend that project up to Sunset and then pick it up there.
Gotcha, thank you.
Okay, so there's no further discussion. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the motion to move this to the next council meeting?
Simmons? Parker?
Aye.
Stacy?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0.
And item number 20, could you please read the next discussion?
Discussion regarding the fundraising money collected for downtown decorations.
Alderman Stacy or Monroe?
On October 17th, 2024, the City of Freeport Communications Department shared a post originally posted by Greater Freeport Partnership Facebook account. The original post included a flyer promoting the Christmas Wizard event being held December the 13th, 2024. On the bottom of the flyer, it stated the following: Christmas Wizard is a fundraising concert for Freeport holiday decoration. Tickets for the concert were sold for $25 to $50 each. Including on the flyer was the City of Freeport logo, along with GFP logo. My first two concerns / questions to City Manager Boyer: did the City of Freeport partner with GFP on this event?
I'm not aware of anything the city of Freeport did on this event.
Okay. Can you explain why our logo would have been on that flyer?
I really don't have an explanation why it is. I haven't seen the flyer.
Okay. Do you remember the flyer?
No, I have
that
never.
I'm
I've never
speaking of?
seen.
Do you remember the event I'm speaking of?
I didn't attend the event, and I know nothing about the event.
Oh, imagine that. Okay. Is there a signed contract between the City of Freeport and Greater Freeport Partnership for this Christian Wizard event? Can anybody tell me? Mayor Miller?
There is not.
Anybody?
There is not.
There is not.
No, the purpose of having the city's logo on that flyer was simply because the intent was that the whatever would be purchased from the fundraising would be turned over as ownership of the city. That was the only reason that the city was on there.
Okay, well, I have asked the question at the last time GFP spoke and gave their report, and they were not prepared to give me an answer at that time because things hadn't been totaled or something of that nature.
Well, it wasn't because they weren't they didn't have all the invoices in at the time, so they didn't have anything accurate to give you. That was on their fourth quarter report. So I'm sure on their first quarter report, I'm sure they'll have that finished up. I don't know. It was GFP Financial.
Okay, but wasn't money turned over to the city since it was for the city?
No. This was not a city event.
I know it was not a city event, but it was an event held for the city.
Can you say that again?
I know that it was not a city event, per your statement and per Rob Boyer's statement, but it was an event for the city.
No, it was an event that the city would have been a recipient of when it was done. This was not an event of any means on behalf of the city of Freeport.
It was held for the city of Freeport.
No, it was a GFP event.
Okay. Mayor Miller, why was the council not made aware of your personal business, Freeport Festival, Inc., partnering with GFP for this Christmas Wizard event? Why weren't we made aware of that?
Okay, so
Not only was it not disclosed to the council, it was not disclosed to the public and some other event donors as well. Why was that kept secretive?
Okay, so let me make some corrections here. The Freeport Festival is not a business. It is a non-for-profit. So obviously there is some confusion as far as what the roles are happening here. I'm sitting here as the mayor. I'm not sitting here as a citizen. I'm not sitting here as a president of the Freeport Festivals. However, I will take a moment to speak as the president of the Freeport Festivals. So let me clarify that this event was fully funded and operated independently of the city. There was no taxpayer money involved. The council does not oversee private organizations, and this matter is outside of the scope of the city's governance. So while I appreciate all the enthusiasm concerning community events, this discussion really does not belong on the city council floor. So if there is really a genuine interest in supporting the Freeport Festivals and having an understanding of that, I would be happy to provide any information outside of this meeting. As you know that my phone is always on, or better yet, you can call the Greater Freeport Partnership, as all of the financials, as I stated before, were under their leadership, which you already know because these were questions that you asked during the fourth quarter report. So if that is suffice, I will conclude my remarks as the president of the Freeport Festivals and resume my role as the mayor of Freeport, and let's continue with city business. This is not city business.
Okay, so maybe it would have been more appropriate to have your business logo on with Greater Freeport Partnership and not the Freeport logo. Thank you.
Well, that's your opinion. Thank you. We'll move on to item number
Yes, it
21,
is.
which is an update from the McGuire Woods. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. For several months now, we've been working with McGuire Woods, looking for grant and grant opportunities through state and other areas. To date, we have an update. We've looked at RISE grants for infrastructure through the U.S. Department of Transportation, also the PROTECT program for resiliency projects, the Illinois Housing Development Authority. We've coordinated discussions with the city and IHDA regarding housing matters. And we've also discussed U.S. Environmental Protection Agency grants, including the Justice Grant, Urban Forestry Grant. We've also looked at researched funding for water main replacements or installations, and alternative fundings that may be available through state and federal appropriations. We've also talked about and worked on National Endowment for the Arts to identify possible funding sources for art programs potentially impacting the downtown area. Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board, we've discussed body camera grants and so forth. In addition, we've done federal and state updates, providing ongoing updates. They've provided us updates every several weeks on developments going on at the state and federal level that impact funding, and then federal and state appropriations, so assisting the city in refining projects, funding requests into one-page formats for legislators, communicating with the Illinois General Assembly budget staff regarding fiscal year 2026 funding, including water main projects flagged by city staff. In addition, engaging with congressional representatives regarding future earmarks and appropriations. In conclusion, McGuire Woods is actively identifying and assisting with multiple grants and funding opportunities across transportation, environmental, law enforcement, arts, and municipal infrastructure. They are also supporting the city, state, and federal funding requests for upcoming fiscal years.
Any discussion on the report?
So with all that being said, they have not found any money for our city yet.
They're identifying potential funding sources that we're not really completely in the cycle yet, where that would be coming to a conclusion. So right now we've been studying, looking, and providing information to them, and they have been continuing to interact with legislators and other program managers.
It's been 6 months, correct? It's been 6 months.
Yes, but that was known when we first started the project, that we were signing with them at the end of the appropriations process, and that we would likely see movement in the summertime.
So, how often do you say that they update you and give you an updated memo? How often?
We have an update at least once a month with other updates as necessary.
Okay, could you give me a copy of your memo that you spoke of tonight and a copy of the 6 months worth of update? Please and thank you.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the report? Darren, did you have something?
I'll make a comment on the McGuire Woods. So just so everyone knows, and we did a funding forum, I think a week and a half ago, something like that. All federal and state processes right now have been frozen by the federal government, so there will be no money moving that is not already appropriated or allocated. All the notice of funding opportunities have been frozen until the presidential order changes on that. There is no funding nominations or ability to get right now other than local, state funding type stuff that's already been sent out.
Alderman Sanders? Oh, I saw your hand up. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, my sister. Okay. You are not hitting the nail right on the head, okay, with your assessment of what state and federal is doing. The one question that I have, let me get it right. Did we vote as council for consulting services? I'm trying to recollect.
Yes, we did.
We did. And was it approved? It was not approved.
I hope so.
It was. You messing with me. Okay. All right. Okay. It was approved, and that's what my concern was. I know we're talking like they're in the mix of doing consulting services for the city of Freeport, and that's what my
Yes,
understanding.
they have a signed contract.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Alderman-
I didn't get a copy of it, but that's okay.
I think you probably did in your packet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Alderman Monroe?
I'll wait, Mayor. I'm good.
Okay.
I have a question.
Well, that'd be like number 6 for you, so. Council, do you mind?
Don't mind.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so why would we continue? Why would we continue knowing that funds are at a halt? Why would we continue putting money into something that we're not going to be able to reap any benefits from?
Alderman Sellers?
Aren't we still looking at, didn't you say, Darren, there was state funding that they can look at while they're down in Springfield? Is it state? We just can't look at federal, but we can look at state, correct?
Yes and no, like motor fuel tax money, those types of items like that, ITEP, things like that are not frozen at a local level, but anything that has federal dollars attached to it, Rob and I went to a little mini conference today, anything that has any federal dollars attached to it, that includes $1, that is all in basically in the icebox right now until further notice.
Alderman Monroe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually will go right now because this pertains to this conversation of federal funding. This week, our police department decided to put out a Trust Act letter that essentially will probably block us from most federal funding. And the reason why is because we're refusing to work with federal law enforcement when it comes to enforcement of civil immigration laws, especially when it pertains to criminal migrants who they are trying to track down. So we've seen in the last week or two, both the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Illinois have the Department of Justice now breathing down their neck. the same is going to happen in Freeport. Because we have decided to side with the law of Illinois and ignore the federal laws. So it's disappointing that on one hand, we say we're going to hire this firm to go out and get federal funding, and on the other hand, without the consent, without the advisement from the council, we're going to go out and put a letter out that then puts us aligned with the same people who are now facing federal retribution. And it's very concerning. We have to figure out what it is we want to do as a city and how we want to be viewed and how we want to go about getting these federal funds. Because without the federal funds, we can't rebuild our infrastructure. And thumbing our nose at the President of the United States in a Facebook post without having a discussion in here first to make sure it's the right thing to do, we all agree, we're just going to go out and do it, kind of goes against what we as a community have been about. We've worked through most of our issues in here. We don't always see eye to eye. We don't always agree. But we have to work together as a community in order to get these funds that are going to build our community back. We have no hope from the state of Illinois, who is now billions and billions of dollars in debt.
Exactly.
Hopelessly in debt. It's a race to figure out between us, California, and a couple of other states who's going to file bankruptcy first. But these federal funds and this organization that we're talking about here, who is now going out and fundraising, essentially, consulting us for lobbying and government relations, is now in the middle of our politics. We put our politics on the front page. And now this organization is stuck trying to fight through that, and we've put ourselves and aligned ourselves in a way that, quite honestly, may prohibit us from getting federal funding. That's where my problem is. It's that point.
Okay, so that was totally off topic. Chief, would you like to respond?
Sure. Just in response to the reason why that was released, I was approached by our school resource officer. There was some angst in the school. I was also made aware of people in the community thinking we had a pretty heavy presence on Oak for a long time, and still do. And seeing us out there in plain clothes with vests on, thought that immigration was in town. I was just clarifying what the rule of law is, how we're governed at this point, and that there were no ICE agents in Freeport, just to put the facts out there instead of having this fester and cause problems within the school, in the community, and so that was the reason for that. So
thank you. Is there any other discussion concerning the McGuire Woods report? Seeing none, we'll move on to department head reports, which would be finance. What? No, you're not at your seat. I can't.
I have to be at my seat.
Well, I believe that's kind of, nobody will be able to hear you, Larry.
Well, if I go back to my seat, I won't have time to go to the other seat.
Well, I don't know what to tell you.
Okay. No, I just want to point out, are we suggesting putting this consulting service on pause?
No, there's not been any motion. It was just an ask for an update of a report, and so that's what the city manager was doing. Thank you. Finance.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would just like to take a moment to congratulate Gladys Hilton. She retired today after 25 years of service to the city of Freeport. We're so happy for her, and she will be greatly missed.
We agree.
Water department?
Community development.
Yes, water billing.
Community development.
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Public Works.
I have one thing. The street superintendent asked me to relay some information. There was quite a few Facebook Facebook posts on Friday, so we want to clarify some information. The street department is not scheduled like fire police departments. We don't have people on shift 24 hours a day, but we do have people on call 24 hours a day. Friday's event was a winter weather warning for our area. We all knew it. It didn't come in the same time as they predicted. The city issued a snow emergency earlier in the week. When these are ordered, it's strongly encouraged for people to stay home during the squall events. That being said, we had 6 guys that were called in to plow priority routes. Those 6 guys promptly came in at 7:30 on Friday night to do primary routes. Everyone came in again at 4 a.m. on Saturday morning and plowed all the streets, parking lots, cul-de-sacs, primary alleys, along with the city-owned sidewalks. Pat was hired to be resourceful as possible when spending taxpayers' money. It's not feasible to be out wasting salt and overtime money during a squall event at night. We're best off to wait till after it runs its course, the best we can, and then attack it at night when people are not around. I want to give a little history of the plowing that happened last week. The guys worked from 4 a.m. to 6 p.m. Thursday. They worked 4 a.m. to 3 p.m. Friday. They were called back in at 7:30 to 11 o'clock on Friday night. And then they were in again at 4 a.m. to 11:30 on Saturday to remove all the snow and ice again. Due to OSHA standards, we have to let the guys have time off to rest because they have CDL licenses required by law. And also, we were trying to be good partners to them to give them some time with their Valentine partners that they hadn't seen since they were at work at 4 a.m. on Friday. I'm not going to read the rest of the email, but it doesn't pertain to that subject. We do our best that we can. We have a very lean crew, and they deserve times with their family too. And if people are out risking their own lives during a snow event, that choice is on their own. Thank you.
Thank you. Fire?
Nothing this evening.
Thank you. Police?
I have no report, thank you.
Thank you. Library?
I just want to remind everybody that we have our rescheduled board meeting tomorrow night from last week. So it'll be at the library at 6 p.m.
Thank you. IT? Thank you. City Manager?
I'd just like to echo Michelle's comments about Gladys. Gladys, you will be missed. Thank you.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say too. So yeah, 25 years of service with the city, so we appreciate her. Alderman, I think it would be Simmons, you were the start?
No, but thank you. No, I'm just gonna,
Alderman Parker?
I'm going to keep my mouth shut on one subject, but I do want to thank the street department. They did an excellent job. Thank you.
Alderman Stacy?
No, thank you.
Alderman Sanders, I'll wait till you get to your chair.
Okay.
Or your seat.
Yeah. I have an array of things I want to comment on or statements. Thank you.
Alderman Sellers.
Yes, I got a text message that would like me to let everyone know to join the Citizens Utility Board, CUB, Environmental Study Group, and State Representative Job Cabello to learn about how to reduce your utility bills and tap into money-saving clean energy programs. It will be Thursday, March 6th, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Freeport Public Library. And she would like everyone to come out and bring some of your utility bills that they could also look at and help you out on. Thank you. That's about it.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I forgot, also with Representative Cabello, he is doing an event here at City Hall on Friday, I believe 8:30, the entire business hours of City Hall for iPass, where you can turn in your old iPass and get the new, however they have that worked out. I'm not sure of the details, but anyway, you can come here. That's an event sponsored by Representative Cabello as well.
What time?
Business hours 8:30 to 5. Yeah, it's kind of long. Yeah. Friday, all day here Friday.
All day Friday.
Alderman Clem.
I'd just like to add a couple things. Kudos to the street department and Thank you to the guys that really worked hard on the water main breaks that we had and things going south on a couple of those. As we all know, they go out in pretty inclement weather and take care of things for us. We appreciate their work. Also on March 5th, mark your calendars, there's going to be a candidate forum, again at the Eagles Club. Whatever you do, please get involved. Whatever you do, vote. Thank you.
Alderman Monroe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to thank all those people that were able to fight their way home after work so that they could pay their taxes to the city of Freeport, and they made it home safe as best they could. I probably should thank myself for working 12-hour days, 5 days a week as well, because that's what the Public Works Department wants to do. We have a responsibility to this city. We pay a ton, and I want to add a word in front of that to add a little color to it, a ton of taxes. And you know, I think about half the public works probably doesn't even live in the city of Freeport, but we all do, and we all pay taxes. Well, some of us do and don't. But with that said, you know, the expectation is when the snow is 2 inches deep on the roads that somebody's out plowing them, and that we know that's coming. We've got partners in the federal government that know it's coming, and they tell us it's coming. We got apps that tell us. We've got the Weather Service. The Stevens County Sheriff's Office app tells you. But it's dangerous, and those people have to get home, and to expect them not to get home during a rush hour, as we would call it here in Freeport, even though compared to Chicago it's not really a rush hour, they still have to get home from work. They have to get home from the store, wherever it may be. And to not have the main thoroughfares at least getting touched is a problem. And I think it's time that we expect more of our government. We're seeing that happen at the federal level. We should expect the same at the state and local level as well. And that means you have to work. And sometimes you have to work really hard, and sometimes you get to work a little bit easier. All of us do the same thing. The fire department, they do the same. The police department, although the police department tends to run from call to call a bit more, that's a lot of work. And those agencies were stretched as well. But I think we've got to think outside the box and come up with a plan. We've got a lot of CDL drivers in this city who could potentially help us out in these events, who could come in and help out. And I think we need to look at some of those options kind of moving forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Next is public comment. Are there any public comments this evening? Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Altman. First, I wanted to touch on the lighting system. For everybody that has a child that's been shot, because you say you got $13,500. So you're telling me that your child's life wouldn't be worth that $13,500 to put a light up? I'm a mother who lost her son at 21 years of age, he was. And I guarantee you, any mother, that next time you find a child that's been shot on there, you go tell that parent that the city didn't want to put up these lights, but yet they can go and spend all this money on snow plow, which you could have bought used, snow spreader. If it was hit, you could have got insurance money. So you're telling me that kids' lives aren't important, or the citizens of Freeport aren't important. More important is you watching that little tiny dollar. But we all pay taxes here. Second, I'm going to address this to Wayne Duckman. You keep saying that the building you tore down on Shawnee's that belonged to Akia Sanders was in terrible shape. It was bad shape. But why aren't you putting a sticker on the Raleigh building that's been in that condition for years? You refuse to tear that down. It had asbestos in it. You won't tear that down because you're thinking you might get something along. That train might come through and you might be able to sell that property. And like Elbers, you gave Elbers a chance to buy that other Raleigh building for $100. And then you tore down her place. And I know, and you're not going to like this, Mayor, but it's who you know and who your friends are. Because I know who your friends are. I went to school with you.
Are there any other public comments?
So I'm Akia Sanders, along with Tiffany Sanders. I own 404 and 402 Shawnee. You got to wonder how would you need your permission to, need the council's permission to pay for a demolition, and you didn't even need their permission to address the situation first? And every time you open your mouth, Wayne, you help me out. You sat up there and told Monroe that you didn't get served a stop demolition order. That was a lie. If anybody want copies, I have the time. I have a video of speaking to you before you demoed my house, after I served you papers, stating that I served you papers, you're gonna knock my house down anyway. So you lied. I mean, anything I mean to do. And then you gotta ask, like, why was it an emergency to knock that house down when you already had 10 approved? There was no fire. It was not falling down. It wasn't in, the shape Knowlton Motors was in passing recently. Don't know. That's one. Then I wanted to address the lighting issue. It disturbed me last time that I didn't get to comment. I was bothered by Stacy or by Joy saying she was safe. When did Oak Street become about you being safe? You don't even comment, or you don't say anything about when people email you. You don't respond back. And then Miller, you addressed Stacy like, why was it only a fifth ward problem? She's a fifth ward alderman. You are the city of Freeport. I have not once heard you say you have circled any block in that neighborhood. And we became a distressed city. I'm not going to take the new name that y'all tried to soften up. We became a distressed city, and y'all used the money to pretty up where you hang at by the Wagner House. Somebody got shot, and I know for sure it was because of the light issue, and they can't find the shooter. And I watched you go to an event where that family celebrated celebration of life, and you that statement, you attending that and smiling was diabolical to me. And this is the weakest display of leadership I've ever seen, to wait and say, let's become a distressed city. Let's wait till somebody else gets shot, beat up, or killed. What the heck? Nice going. Y'all doing a real great job up here. Nobody likes you, though.
Next.
I don't really have anything in particular to comment on.
Can you identify yourself, please?
Micaiah Stacy, sorry. I moved out of Freeport in 2020 to Ames, Iowa, and spent 4 years there getting my degree. I recently went to Des Moines and talked to my friends that live in Des Moines, even one in a trailer park, and told them what's happening in Freeport, and they were flabbergasted at the least. I love this city. I want to continue living in the city. I want people my age to not feel like we have to leave. So when there's little things about, oh, shouldn't all the city get lights? Yeah, duh, that's not the problem. The problem is we're focusing on all these small other petty things to be like, oh, look at our crime rate compared to Chicago. Look at the crime rate compared to Des Moines. I pulled it up. It is astonishing. And even downtown Des Moines, lit up like a Christmas tree, and that helps, but even the trailer park my friend lives in, she could go stand on the street and I can see her in a trailer park. We can't do the same for our streets. I don't want to leave here again, but this council and the city in general is making it very hard to want to stay for my safety and the safety of my family. My mom has put roots down here. My brother may have put roots down here. I don't want to spend the rest of my nephew's life only seeing him once a month like I did from 2020 to 2024. Can we please figure something out for the love of the city, not for our own well-being or whatever it is? You love the city, you want to live in it, you want to be the mayor, please do something about this. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Tommy?
Going Dickinson. You got to update about the Holiday Inn in Freeport.
Holiday Inn is not open, Tommy.
And when
We are working on getting that one torn down as well.
What about that Lincoln, what Don Parker said, that Lincoln thing, right, Don?
That what?
That Lincoln,
The school in Chicago, that old school.
Oh, we're working on demolishing that one as well, Tommy.
and that Susie Mike was looking good. It's right by that,
Jersey Mike, right? Yep, by the old GameStop.
Yeah.
Yep, we're still working on that one. I had a talk to our building inspector. They're full steam ahead on that one. So
Okay.
I hope you're hungry.
Are there any other public comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Monroe. All those in, oh, it has to be a vote. It has to be.
Simmons,
Yeah.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Yes.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers, Clem,
Aye.
Monroe.